It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy, it's easy to learn the rules. Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington, Andy and Remington Show.
Welcome one and all, it's time for yet another red hot sizzling spicy edition of the Andy and Rem Show, episode 169, Dragon Riders, baby. We lose the thumbnail. We're not going to play the Remington's Blinds game. This got something even more exciting in store for you. Look at that. Remington in unfamiliar surroundings. What is going on?
House sitting, Andy. So, look at that. Look very professorial. There's books behind me. Classic, right? And there's plenty of lights shining through. So, as it gets dusk, I'm looking forward to what the night sky will bring. I've heard there are dragons on the horizon.
Well, you'd be right, because you'd be mistaken for thinking, well, the Stormcast, they've already got Stardrake. They're now going to get these two massive ancient dragons that are far more intelligent, presumably, than all the other dragons, because they don't need anyone riding them. They're far too proud and wise for that. You might think that's enough. They've got wingless, dragon-esque mounts, as far as the eye can see. But no, that's obviously not enough dragons. We were in fact mistaken. GW have corrected us and told us that no, what Stormcast really needed was one more dragon unit, or multiple dragon units from the same kit, crammed into the already bloated Stormcast range.
That's a fair assessment, Andy. And it's funny because last week when we were reviewing the two sons of the dragon god, Draconith or Draconath or something like that, I can't remember, but two very impressive models. And we said, oh, wouldn't it be nice if they could get some sort of dragon riders? And the first dragon riders I ever bought were high elves. So I thought, well, maybe, the high elves are all famous for riding dragons. And, you've got the dark elf sorceress and you've got undead dragons. Now we've got bloody Stormcast riding dragons. But you know what? It is such an impressive couple of models, isn't it, Andy? Well, I think so anyway.
Well, on the Warhammer community, they had this slightly tongue-in-cheek video where they're mocking inferior mounts, such as horses, for not being dragons. And they then present us with this. Not only this is just one version of it, the Flaming Sword. That's the Knight Draconis. But then there are other ways to build this kit, and we'll look at them all in more detail in a second. But first of all, we've also got these variants. So we've got, what are these ones called? We've got...
Yeah, look, I love the dragon on the right. Of the more scenic diorama picture you got there. It reminds me of one of the Jungle Book original cartoon character's face. I think they got that face, the one on the right there, Andy. I think they got that off an old Disney cartoon face. It looks so much like the lion,
actually. It's
Sheriff of Nottingham.
It looks kind of like one of the lions or panthers or something from the old Disney.
Which weapon do you prefer there? Do you like the sort of more harpoony, halberdy?
Well, I have seen this one here described as a bit of toilet paper stuck on the end. So maybe that's going to put people off that one if it has that association. The swords, I lean towards the swords on these things, they're going to be so big and heavy. And whatever you store them in, they're going to be poking against the edges of it. So the longer and more fragile the weaponry, the more chance of it breaking off if you're not into magnets.
I got you. I mean, why? And a choice between the two swords, Andy, who wouldn't choose the flaming sword?
Well, it depends if you want to go for the Knight Draconis or if you want to go for the Stormdrake Guard, who presumably can't have flaming swords because they're not quite as fancy. But
I should have read that, really, shouldn't I? I tend to look at the pictures more.
Smaller than Stardrakes.
Yeah.
but obviously they're going to be cheaper in points and presumably money as well.
Do you think you get 2 in a box?
I think so.
So it would be like the they get the Gargant, and then you can buy the 2 ale guzzler giants, can't you, in a box now?
It would be nice if you got 2 in a kit, but I can't see any evidence of that at the moment. From what I've seen, it looks like they share enough body parts that it suggests it's only one kit that you can build in 3 different ways, but I don't know that for a fact.
Now, do you prefer your fully helmeted Stormcast, or do you like to see the whites of their eyes? Do you like to see those shiny bold heads?
For me, it depends on the unit. So if we take the Stormcast I've been building as an example, let's have a look. So I've got some of the more spindly units, and I've got a lot of the heads exposed, but on the Annihilators, then I've very much gone for the helmets on those. I think they're just supposed to be like walking tanks. So I think it depends on the unit and whether it suits having the heads exposed or not. But for the most part, I like to put in as many exposed heads as possible, but not if I don't think it suits the unit. There you go.
Well, yeah, okay, fair enough. I do like the head there for sure. I suppose you can use any head if you like. And the golden masks remind me very much. I keep being reminded of stuff, but the classic John Borman 1981, brilliant film, never bettered, Excalibur. He looks very much like Arthur's evil son, who's got that golden helmet mask on.
What's Arthur's evil son's name?
Oh, damn it. Well, Morgana is his sister who entices him into bed, and they have a sort of an evil child. What's his name? Someone in the chat tell me. Come on, you old school longbeards, tell me. Can't remember. Arthur and Morgana's son. Anyway, it's a really good fight at the end.
We will talk about the flight stands in a moment, Colin, but let's have a quick read of this bit of text here. So, much like the larger Stardrakes or the flightless Dracoths, both of whom already fight with the armies of Athea, Draconith are children of Dracothion, whom you'll remember as the celestial drake who rescued Sigmar from the remains of the world that was. He's still knocking around, but it's the Seraphon who've been hard at work incubating eggs and returning Draconith to the realms long after Kragnos brought them to their knees. So the Seraphon, instead of riding on dragons themselves, they think, you know what? We've got enough excitement in our model range. We've got enough big-scaled creatures. Stormcast, how about you take a couple more?
Well, Andy, look, if you weren't going to give the Stormcast dragons, who would you give them to if you had to give them to a race? Or
well,
would you make
Stormcast have already got dragons. They've got dragons coming out their eyeballs.
Well, yeah, they got Stardrake. They got sort of land dragon riders, haven't they? William Matthews, he's a bit of a historian, isn't he? On this channel, Mordred was Arthur's son's name, who that golden mask on the Stormcast reminds me of. So yeah, so okay, if not Stormcast, who would you put on these? Would you put on these?
Do the Lumineth have a dragon? I don't think they do.
Well, no, because they've got sort of mutated, weird sort of animal flying things now, haven't they? And but I don't know. It seems like high elves, cities of Sigmar, cities of Sigmar units that would naturally have dragons. They're really on the back burner. I don't personally, and I hope I'm wrong. I don't think they're going to make any more Citizens of Sigmar miniatures. I think they're slowly letting that die off, and these cities will be just taken over.
Well, you might say that,
warriors.
but there is an article we'll be getting to shortly that may change your mind on that front. We'll see in a moment. So let's look at the flight stands, because that was brought up in the comments that they weren't well liked by at least one person in there. And I would say they look a lot more sturdy than the flight stands of old. I'll give them that. This new curved flight stand that they've brought in recently, those are much more reliable, less prone to snapping.
Like blown glass, don't they?
They do, and when you first see them, they do take you out of it a little bit because you're not used to GW using a lot of these anymore. They've got so many models that are perched on bits of rock on the ground, haven't they?
Yeah.
So it's you're seeing less and less of the flight stands as time goes on.
Yeah, I like them, man. Give it a bit of action. if that was just, straight vertically up, it would look like it's literally just propping it up, right? But this at least gives it a bit of a bendy bully motion.
A bit of
One other
variety
point,
as well, because we've already got the
yeah,
Stardrake and the other dragons that aren't really flapping about too
right.
much.
One other thing, Andy, what is it with Games Workshop dragons? They always seem to have like body armor, you know? I mean, because if you were a dragon hunter, you traditionally think, oh, that's the one. It's the soft underbelly of the dragon you'd like to hit. But I don't know. I know I can see why they've got armor there, but I don't like it. I don't like it aesthetically. I like to see the fat underbelly of a dragon, don't you?
I think you would have seen that if we just saw a race of purely dragons
Got
without
you,
any
but
armor.
I'd like that to be at least optional. Like you can optional. You got the option to put the plate on the body there, but the
I've
wings look lovely, don't they?
I've
Yeah,
seen someone build a Stardrake without any armor before, and like
yeah.
re-sculpted the chest area where the armor plates normally go. That looked pretty.
I have to say, I don't know if it's the paint job, which is really superb, or the actual models, but they do remind me of Puff the Magic Dragon. Those dragons, they're kind of cute. I really like them actually. Yeah, I like them a lot. I don't really care that Stormcast are riding them. To be fair, you know. I
So,
mean, could have had like a barbarian riding one. That would have been cool, wouldn't it? Like Chaos Marauders on dragons.
well, if there's anyone who's got enough models after Stormcast, it's probably Chaos.
True, true.
So who else would you put on a dragon? If not
Well,
the Lumineth, because if we compare them to the High Elves, obviously they were like the dragon masters, weren't they? Back in the day.
yeah. Well, can you see humans? Can you see like the Empire? Not really. They're a bit too. They're just too weedy now, aren't they? I mean, they get to ride griffins.
Can't really see the deep kin. I'm sure all the various undead factions have either got or will have their own giant undead flying creatures, so not really suitable for regular plain old dragons.
It looks like they made these with the intention of creating a pure dragon army, right? So you've got a couple of these fellas flying around, and you've got one of the big daddy dragons, and then you can even have those dragon Draconith riders, right?
Well,
It would be wicked. Colin Mack says Hero Quest dwarf. Wouldn't it be amazing if the Duardin had like a beefy dragon slayer riding the dragon?
the closest we've got would be the Magma Droth for the Fire Slayers. It's quite dragon-like, lacking wings, obviously. So,
Yeah, I mean, you could convert them, couldn't you? I suppose, right?
good. I feel like this is the one I'm leaning towards at the moment. One that's clearly the more powerful character. Dragon with armoured horns and the flaming sword.
Why
Clearly,
doesn't that surprise me?
I think it just looks cooler than the others. I don't know how many of the others you'd be able to take in a list, but I can assume that if they want to give you the option taking all dragon units, then they could do so with those new dragons. If one of those, as your general, for example, makes like Dracoth Riders Battle Line or something, so you could take nothing
Andy,
but dragon units.
I'm going to give you some quick fire questions about these dragons and what rules you think will be implemented for them. Okay, so you just give me your first answer. Movement over 12-inch or under.
I'd say maybe exactly 12 inches.
Okay, wounds more or less than 12 wounds.
I don't. I think they could be, looking at the size of them, they could come in at about 12 wounds. Maybe even as low as 10.
Okay. Breath weapon, yes or no?
I think they'll have one that's kind of similar to the Dracoth. No, it won't be as powerful as the Stardrake's shooting
Okay.
attacks.
Number of attacks excluding rider.
Number of attacks for the Beast.
Yeah.
3. But they'll be powerful attacks with like multiple damage on each one.
I would say 3 attacks just for the claws. They'll have a tail attack and they'll have a biting attack. So at least 5, I'll say, maybe more.
It depends how much damage each one does, though. They'll probably have
Okay,
some extra special attack as well.
okay. How about this then? Magic.
Magic. It doesn't look like there's a wizard version. Unless one of them has some kind of magic potency that isn't apparent here. But none of them look particularly wizardly, do they? I could see, for example, this one with the flaming sword having abilities that are similar to spells, but in effect at least, but I don't think any of them are going to be spellcast.
Points value, more or less than 300 points?
For one, I think they might end up being like 300. We're looking at like the Star Drake, I think it's going to be less points than that. More points than a little unit of Dracoth, so probably 300, 330, something like that maybe, would be my prediction, with all my expertise.
Not as much as a Star Drake.
I think the Star Drakes come in at less than 600 now. So, not quite half of a Star Drake. A bit more than that.
Okay, I'm nearly out of questions now. Okay, armor save. Natural armor
I
save.
think by default, 3+.
Okay, bonuses on charging.
Definitely. Especially the ones with the lances.
Yeah. Are you okay? Hammer or anvil?
Hammer.
Interesting. Glass hammer.
No. Maybe
Okay.
like bulletproof glass hammer.
Okay, final question. Some kind of save against mortal wounds.
Maybe not inbuilt. Maybe you can upgrade them. Or maybe one of them like that. But Stormcast don't have a huge amount of save against mortal wounds available to what I've been looking through. But of course, we are on the verge of a new Stormcast book. So who knows?
Okay.
It could be totally different
hat.
in a couple of weeks.
Tinfoil hat question. If you kill the rider, does the dragon go on a rampage?
No.
Damn it.
That's my prediction. Do you miss those old days of Warhammer Fantasy where you could cannonball the rider and then the beast would just go wild?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Do you miss animosity? You
Because
wouldn't, because you never played goblins.
Yeah, because I play dwarves, then yes. It means the units that are coming after my War Machine gun line are going to probably stand still for a turn.
Okay, final question, Andy, and the one we're all waiting for with bated breath. Your price prediction.
If it's one in a pack, then looking at the size of it, let's have a quick look through all the pictures, see if we can get a good size judgment here. It's pretty hefty, this thing. It's not small.
Okay,
So,
let's narrow it down. More than £30.
yes.
Okay, more than £40.
Yes.
Okay, less than £75.
Yes. Definitely.
£50.
It's hard
I'm
to
going to say
it's hard
55.
to it's hard to precisely
55.
judge the size of it without a 360, but I was thinking around that level, somewhere just above 50 maybe. If the pictures just make it look larger than it actually is, it could be even less.
You think less than a Star Drake?
Definitely less than a Star Drake, but it won't be cheap actually, because if you think about all the bits they're going to have in here for the different dragon heads and all the different riders.
Yeah.
Let's see, do any of them have different wings though? Because that would be quite a big, wouldn't it? Rather than just the little horn tips. All the wings look like they're the same with a different wing piece connecting them to the model, possibly. Are those the same wings just angled downwards, or are they more folded up? It's hard to tell, isn't it?
I don't know. Are the fleshy scales on the inside of the wings? Are they painted on, or are they part of the sculpture?
I think they are sculpted in.
I like that. It's very good. Okay.
Yeah, so I think probably slightly above £50. I'd be surprised if it's anywhere near Star Drake levels. William says Crondis, son of Dracothion, seems to be the magic user.
I think the final question: will you be getting one, Andy, for your
Well,
Stormcast army?
if, as William predicts, they'll be £40 each, then I think I would definitely get one.
£40 retail, which could make it something like £36, £32 in a discounted store. I
Then
can't see it, man.
that would be very reasonable if it was that cheap. I would definitely be
Colin
all over that.
Matt's Colin Matt's coming in with a more realistic £65, but how much was the Star Drake?
The Star Drake is, I think at the moment it's something like 85. That might be from the third party sellers though. It might be like 95 on the website.
Okay, if you were a dragon newbie but you wanted to buy one, would you buy the Star Drake or would you buy one of these?
Well, this is going to be a bit smaller, isn't it? So probably go in at this end rather than the Star Drake scale because you aren't you if you've never painted a dragon before. And I will say, if anyone out there hasn't painted a dragon, you probably should. Prior to the Star Drake, I hadn't painted one. I'd always wanted to back in the Warhammer Fantasy days, but the armies I played, for example, dwarves mostly, never really had access to them. So,
Speaking of dwarves, I mean, I'd like to paint a dragon. I think I might have to get one just to paint, just for the painting experience. Really, I've gone back and bought some Dwarden. I bought some Iron Drakes, Andy.
you bought some Iron Drakes.
Iron Drake slash Longbeard. Sorry, Iron Drake slash
Iron Breakers.
Iron Breakers. Yeah, so I'd like to have 10 Iron Breakers and 10 of the Drake pistoled guys.
Well,
So
you finally joined the Iron Drake fan club after all these years.
yeah.
So anyone out there who's watching this after the fact and we're not live anymore, in the comments, put your price predictions for this kit in there. See who gets the closest.
Now, what I'd like to see, Andy, is an all dragon or dragon rider army up against a bunch of savage orcs that get the bonuses against monsters.
I bet you'd love to see that.
That'd be so funny. But like, just hundreds of savage orcs just swarming around trying to climb on the backs of these dragons to get the last mighty stab.
You would think if the dragons were wise, they would just flap around in the sky and just rain down lightning on the orcs.
Well, Andy, that's a good point. As the tactical genius you are, why didn't the dragons just defeat Kragnos that way? You know, Kragnos almost, according to the law, it's a giant Centigore that's not a beastman apparently, called Kragnos, almost exterminated all of the dragonkin.
Well, I can only assume that they have to land sometime, and if he's up there on the mountain smashing all their eggs to bits, you would think that they're going to come down and defend them, wouldn't you? I can only imagine it went something like that.
He must be immune to breath weapons, I suppose, or something like that. Or I'd just literally just fly away. You know what I mean? It's like, why even bother fighting him? Just, fly to another continent.
Why not? Why not pack up your family and just fly to another continent to escape Kragnos?
William Matthews, yet again. Kragnos stamped on the dragon eggs, apparently.
Yes, so that would make sense.
And the Seraphon have been carefully hibernating dragon eggs. So
Very kind of them to hand them over to the Stormcast, though, instead of enriching their own model range. Very kind.
I mean, I'd be tempted to eat them, really. It might be quite tasty.
A dragon omelette.
A real delicacy.
Well, if I end up with a 50% dragon army for my Stormcast, then we can build a scenario around that, get some egg models, use them as objectives. You and your Daughters of Cain trying to cook up some dragon omelettes. By the way, I was watching an episode of Warhammer Weekly the other day, and I was listening, and I heard that Marathi is apparently one of the most overpowered things in the game. You don't own her.
No, I don't own her. Yeah, I think she's like £75 to buy or something like that. But massive model, amazing rules. You can't. Basically, it's very hard to kill her. You can only do 3 wounds to her in any one turn.
There's something like you can't kill her in the first 2 or 3 rounds, something like that.
Yeah, I can see how that could be possible if you had some artifacts and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, that's just the kind of model I think I need against you, Andy. Just to
Something to
tie
stack
you
up
up.
against the Stardrake.
Yeah, well, as the viewers will see, we've done a second battle, and Andy and I are going to be putting that up on the channel. A second battle in Age of Sigmar 3, and it's a rematch of the Stormcast versus my Daughters of Cain. Andy's mixed it up a bit and put a few different units in. I've put a few extra units in my army, and Andy debuts his Age of Sigmar 3 second appearance with the Stardrake Dragon, and I'm tasked with taking it down with some pesky Daughters of Cain units. Not an easy job.
Indeed. And obviously, people will see when we go into this probably tomorrow with the battle report. But it's quite a complex rule system now. Not in terms of the rules are difficult, like the base rules. There's just a lot of rules that you can use at any given time that you need to be aware of in your mind. It's difficult to remember them all. So, at the moment, I'm working on some kind of Remington reminder sheet specific to his army with what all his various people can do in each phase of the game. So instead of going through 100 different war scrolls next to him on the sofa, just looking at this sheet and thinking, it's the enemy combat phase. Oh, that one can do that here. I've got this many command points, I could do that and that if I want. So that'll make it a lot quicker, won't it?
I've never felt more prepared for a battle, but when it came to me taking the first turn, I just had a complete brain freeze. I knew it was a crucial turn. They're all crucial turns, really, but it was like I had 30 sheets of various cards describing what units can do and what they're armed with and special rules, and specific for witch elves and the models I had and the units I had. And it was just, I had a complete brain freeze. I didn't know where to begin. And, it got better as the game went on. But it was, I think I probably took about 35 minutes to do my first turn. It was
You'd have
horrible.
so many
Andy, you're very
options, you
patient.
have so many options to you at all times, though, don't you? There's so many abilities you can activate at all times, and you've got the command points. And in fact, we've been doing command points slightly wrong still. It didn't really make a difference because we weren't using a vast amount of them anyway. But supposed to get the command points for having your commander alive in each hero phase, not just at the start of the battle round. So you actually get even more command points than we were
I
using.
got you. Yeah. I mean, I'm starting to think this is the new hero hammer. To be honest, what do you
It's,
reckon, Andy?
I think it certainly is, because you can definitely stack up a lot of these generic abilities onto one big model or one big unit, and you can already upgrade them heavily. And there's a lot of the rules where you can just apply something to one unit in your army just for free
Yeah.
in the books. If you stack up some of these things on one model, you can make it quite powerful, which is what I've attempted to do in the game we had with the Stardrake. See whether that paid off or not.
I remember putting a special artifact on my general, which I didn't even use in the game, but I could literally appear, disappear, and appear anywhere on the battlefield within, uh, 9 inch away from your model. So I completely forgot about that. I mean, the witch elves have got, this really interesting rule mechanic where they get more buffs as they go along, but then they've also got magic. Then they've also got prayers, and then they've also got um, invocations. And it's like, are they all the same thing, or are they different? Are they all done in the hero phase? If so, is there any specific order? You know. So
Well, that's what the Remington reminder sheet is going to show. A list of all these things in the exact order that you'll want to use them for each phase. So when that phase happens, you just look down at the sheet. Those are my options. What do I want to do?
but then
That'll
I
be a good
guess,
way to go about it.
yeah, I mean, with my Daughters of Cain army, there's not a terrific amount you can do unless they're in combat, or unless your troops are sort of within sort of 12 inch or so. But yeah, the one spell I did really enjoy was Pit of Shades, and trying them out on your retributors, Andy. How did you like that?
Well, we'll see how that goes in the battle report. Now, one thing you're going to regret doing, I think, is trading me, as part of the deal for the Cruel Boys, you've handed over a Lord Ordinator.
Yep.
And him combined with the 3 ballistas that I have would be quite a spicy combo to drop down behind your lines, maybe using command points on them as well to give them even more like pluses. So I think you could regret giving me this model.
Is
What I'm
that with
saying.
is that using the sort of machine gun attack or the sort of harpoon attack? Which one?
Well, when they just land in from the heavens, which I assume I'll still be able to do with the ballistas and Lord Ordinator with them, I can put them close enough to your units that it should be close range. So dead witch elves.
You should be able to teleport around like a war machine. That's just silly.
Well, we don't know any of this for a fact though until the new Stormcast book comes out. So they could have totally changed and they're not allowed to zap down from the heavens anymore because Sigmar's run out of zappy juice.
It's going to be a massive book, isn't it? If it encapsulates all the Stormcast models, heroes, monsters that have been released over the last, 6 years now, 7 years?
Yes, I'm not thrilled for my bank account either, because I'm going to need the Stormcast Battle Tome, I'm going to need the War Scrolls, I'm going to need one of these dragons. That Chariot, when it comes out, is definitely on my list, and they've got so many other units coming as well, in conjunction with the book. So I've been painting, obviously, all these guys. I've been painting this very powerful lady as well. Her black wings, as I'm doing them.
Yeah, that's a terrific model. I mean, Andy, do you think they're just going to forget about some units? Or do you think there's going to be multiple books? I mean, which edition of Stormcast rules is this book? Is it like the 3rd, 4th, 5th edition now?
It could be is it the 4th Stormcast book, or is it only the 3rd? I'm not even sure, because we kind of zoned out for a little while. There could have been 8 books during the several month period we weren't making any Age of Sigmar content or following it particularly. So,
but they've had more than double the. I mean, Doors of Cain have had 2 now, haven't they? I mean, some units, some Cities of Sigmar only have 1. You know, you got Idoneth Deepkin; they've only had 1. Granted, they've not been out as long, but I think this is like the 4th edition. You know,
could well be.
Crazy.
I've got 2 Stormcast books, and I believe the one that I have right now is the most recent one. So let's see.
Wow.
William says 4th Stormcast book, 5th with Extremist Chamber. See, that makes sense. If I missed one out, that would make sense.
That's ridiculous, man. So that's like, £120 worth of just rule books for Stormcast.
So, on the topic of Stormcast, let's have a look at this here. So, the Stormcast Eternals become the ultimate defenders of the mortal realms in their best battle tome yet. So, what's going to make it the best one ever? Well, obviously they've got all these new units coming, but not only that, there's a couple of things that jumped out here that they've put some attention onto. So, Stormkeep battle trait, Mortal Auxiliaries. So, a Stormkeep army can include coalition units. 1 in every 4 units can be coalition units from the Cities of Sigmar faction. Your general cannot be a model from a coalition unit. Any Cities of Sigmar units you include in your army gain the Stormkeep keyword. In addition, add 1 to the bravery characteristic. Friendly Stormkeep units wholly within 12 inches of any friendly Stormkeep Redeemer unit. So, Cities of Sigmar can officially just thrust themselves among the Stormcast now. They've been down in the realms for so long that they've made friends with all the nice friendly races down there, including the irregular boring old humans, and they're now quite happy to go into the battle with them without it just being some like tacked on allied units that can't benefit from anything being with them.
Now, Andy, if you were a Stormcast general having to call upon the aid of a unit from the Cities of Sigmar, they
Yes.
would literally just be cannon fodder, wouldn't they? They would literally just, expect them to, you know, just be body shields, so your golden warriors wouldn't get hurt. Speaking of these,
Yes.
speaking of like anti-rules, like we said, like killing the rider of a dragon, and dragon might go on a monstrous rampage, killing friend or foe. Wouldn't it be nice if Stormcast had a roll of a dice, or your opponent rolls a dice, and they shoot back up into the heavens? How about that? Units can only sort of have a temporal presence on a on the earth, so to speak, and they just at any point, or if some kind of debuff where they're more likely to just get shot back up into the sky. That'd be quite cool. Just actually
Some
remove them
kind of
backwards.
mechanic for them becoming weakened. Their tether to this world becoming weakened, and they are like zapped back temporarily and then come back next.
No, they don't come back. They just leave.
I'm not so keen on that. I prefer the idea of them coming back.
Okay,
So we've got a bit of a preview of some dragon rules here as well.
okay.
Looks of it. For
Oh, the big
Parazai the
dragon.
Scarred. Yes. So each time this unit destroys an enemy unit, you can apply the relevant effect below. If the enemy unit was hero or monster, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of melee weapons used by this unit for the rest of the battle. I see. If the enemy unit had a wounds characteristic of 3 or more and was not a hero or monster, add 1 to run and charge rolls for this unit for the rest of the battle. If the enemy unit had a wounds characteristic of 2 or less, you can heal 1 wound allocated. So, if you're eating weaklings, you get wounds back. Slightly tougher things, you can re-roll or add 1 to run and charge rolls. And if it's something really powerful, add 1 to attacks for the rest of the battle. So it just gets more powerful as the game goes on, the more things you fight with it, encouraging you to get it in there to just eat everybody.
Hmm. Nice. How many wounds do you think these bad boys have?
These massive dragons,
Yeah.
surely they're going to have even more than a Star Drake.
20? 20 wounds?
Yeah, 20 sounds about right.
Wow.
It could be even more than that, but just based on how many a Star Drake has, I think it's going to be more. Maybe this one will have more wounds than the other because it's so big, or maybe it'll just have a better armor save or something.
Yeah.
So, Stormcast, definitely getting spicy. Let's have a look at the chat before we move on to the next topic. So, Dark House is the house. It says, with Broken Realms, striking from Inframazia isn't as easy. Guessing using cities as backup is to show that Stormcast are using whatever they can. Hee. So, yes, it's been more difficult for the Stormcast to zap themselves up and down willy-nilly like it was when they initially invaded. There have been various roadblocks put in the way of their zappy teleporty powers.
We can see there in that picture the Cruel Boys have got some of their new monsters there, looking pretty cool.
I like how there's a ballista aimed right at it as well, which is a sneak preview of what's going to be happening in our games, I think.
I know. I like the old school bolt throwers. You know what I mean? I love the bolt thrower, dwarf bolt throwers, the goblin bolt throwers, spear chuckers. Because they're a little bit crap, a little bit low tech. But the Stormcast one is just—it's like literally like a laser gun. You know?
Sure is. Now, what's this? We've got a bit of a rumour engine. It's spikes with liquid dripping down them.
Ooh.
Would that suggest Daughters of Cain to you?
Yes.
They're all about the spikes and the blood, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it looks more like blood, and the spikiness looks more dark elf, witch elf than it does, say, Nurgle,
It looks
and it being ooze.
like a hat on the avatar of Cain or something,
It does, yeah.
but
It
with
does
blood all
actually.
over it.
Yeah, I do like the Avatar of Cain as a model and as a unit in the game. I really like it. Loads of wounds, doesn't diminish. Has a shooting attack. I forgot about my shooting attack, with Andy. Forgot all about that. Fiery torrent that
Well,
gets
you can
blasted
talk
out of it.
all about that in the battle report. Lament on your forgetfulness. So, you ready for some different spice? So,
Yes.
Kings of War Halflings, fully painted pictures.
Hmm.
What do you think of that?
Now, yeah, the paint job's terrific. Like, I'm not sure how I feel about like a troll in the possession of a halfling army. I don't know if that's really plausible. Do you?
Well, any
I mean,
monster that's hungry surely would want to be allied with the Halflings. And in Kings of War, Halflings are very much a neutral faction as well, so they can
right.
ally with anybody.
So what is it? Is it some kind of plow?
I imagine it gets pushed into the enemy and does probably a random amount of damage to them. If it's anything like the Goblin Mincer, similar idea, but not as cool as this. Then we've got these. We can zoom in a bit actually. So fully painted guns riding on armored dogs.
Nice.
Very cool indeed.
Really
And
nice.
a nice variety of heads. They've got lots of women halflings mixed into these units as well, I've noticed. Nice touch.
Yeah.
Nice.
The actual dog models are really terrific. I have to say.
Yeah. And here's another unit. Similar, but these ones are spear and shield armed.
Now, what I've noticed about these Kings of War halflings, they're not as sort of tubby, you know, as Games Workshop halflings.
No, they're not as kind of
They're more
comedic, are they?
no, they're more stout, I'd say.
More of a proud race, but there's a hint of comedy, and they are still food.
Yeah.
Then we've got Wizard here.
What the other thing I like, Andy, is yeah, these can flesh out an alternative game Warhammer fantasy halfling army. Because many of these units, not that big grasscutter of doom, but the dog riders and the pony riders, they were all units mentioned in the alternative halfling rulebook. But there's never really any models you could buy, or any full units anyway. So
There have been lots of halfling models out there on the market in the last few years, but there
mm,
hasn't been a range this vast as far as I can tell, and certainly with these types of units. I don't think I've seen dog riders before.
no, I mean there must be some demand out there, right? If companies are taking the gamble and producing whole armies
There
there.
must be, and I really like the heads. That's one of the things that stands out for me on these units. There's a lot of character, there's a lot of different hairstyles, and just a lot of variety in general.
Now, I would say a halfling would be um, more likely to have a blunderbuss than a little like air pistol, air rifle. What do you say?
Well, I think the halflings in Kings of War are being portrayed a little bit more towards the kind of tinkerer kind of technology,
Oh yeah,
with elements of like classic gnome culture thrown in there.
yes.
So
I love those
not
black
just
hats.
purely like barefooted, like bow wielding to be halfling.
Yes. Oh, that's another big difference, isn't it? That you can't see the hairy feet.
Yes,
Interesting.
makes them a bit more serious. And then we've got some. They appear to be fancier spears here.
So it looks like this is one box set, and you can arm it in different ways, right? Sword and shield,
Yes, you can give them guns, you can give
spears,
them swords,
guns.
you can give them spears, and I think the cavalry come as part of the same box.
Right, and if we're talking Kings of War, are we talking value as well, Andy? Lots of models for a really nice price.
Generally, with Kings of War, that is the case.
Nice.
And then we've got even more. Here's the sword and shield options. And I'm noticing these units have the same heads, which suggests they are all from the same kit, and the heads are all interchangeable throughout all the different units.
Yeah, I think the halfling with the black hat is a giveaway there, and the halfling with the side chops and the bald head.
Yes. So it is nice that all the pieces are interchangeable, though, between all the different units.
They are nice. Yeah. You
And
get
then we've
20.
got...
How much Wong are we talking then for 20 halfling? Oh, that's terrific. Love that model.
When they're actually up for sale on the website, we'll have a deep look into the prices side. They represent excellent value. But this
That's
guy
a
is really nice.
beautiful paint job there. He looks a bit Scottish, doesn't he? He looks like a Glaswegian chef.
Headhunter says, back on track, fellas, battle reports, etc. Yes, battle reports are going to be flowing freely out of this channel, directly into your homes via the internet. Keep your eyes peeled. Plenty of battle reports coming, and no sign of them slowing down. We're all about this now. We're diving back in. I'm actually feeling quite enthusiastic for this game now. It's a new edition. It's a good time to be jumping back in. I think second edition of Age of Sigmar mostly bypassed us, it's fair to say. I only played a few games of it. But third edition, we're here from the start. We're going to be able to learn with the rest of the community as well.
Yeah, and we'll actually know what they're talking about when they talk about meta changes and that.
Yes, and we'll actually be able to keep up with it, maybe even be able to go to some tournaments at some point as well.
That is so funny. What do you think, Andy? A doubles? We've had a couple of doubles games before, and I think we won them both, or did we win one, lose one?
I think one was probably a draw.
Yeah.
We definitely won a game though.
Yeah, we beat Amy Snuggs.
Yeah, we did.
And her boyfriend.
With the scenario with Cecil the Magical Unicorn.
Yeah. I actually had my wood elves for that. I really enjoyed playing with them.
Yeah, so I think that battle report is still on the channel. Look that one up. If you look up all the old Age of Sigmar battle reports.
There's so many little things about this miniature that I love, Andy. Have you noticed that what he's treading in there at the back?
It looks a bit squidgy.
It looks a bit like he's trotting some dung, and that brings me, Andy, seamlessly to Remington's $1 million idea of the day.
Oh, hold
not
on.
Related, but it's not related to wargaming. But it's got a link to that.
Well, before you do that, let me just play this intro clip here.
I'll do it.
Remington's Millions.
There you go. If you want to earn Remington's millions, follow his $1 million ideas. Take it away.
Okay, guys, million, perhaps even multi-bagger $1 million idea here. Now, if any of you guys pet lovers or owners of dogs or even cats or hamsters, horses, pigs, and what with government and auntie looking over your shoulder these days, it's not like the 80s anymore where you'd walk down the street and you'd see piles of dog poo everywhere. No, we live in cleaner, more environmentally friendly times, but that means picking up litter and picking up doggy poop. In comes in Remington's $1 million idea. Dog poo freeze. Instantly freeze the doggy poo into a frozen lump, easily pick upable and disposable without leaving behind any trace of a stain.
Is this some kind of spray?
Well, there is antifreeze, right? To stop freezing on cars. So it's just a reversal of the process. Some kind of instant freeze spray.
Some kind of antifreeze is what you're talking about.
Yes. Now Remington Industries, we don't quite have the lab staff to come up with the formula for that. But what we do have is the brain power to come up with the ideas. So Andy, over to you. As the voice of reason, is this a good idea?
You know what? I think there could be money to be made in this idea. Because there are a lot of people out there, I see, they look disgusted whenever they do their public duty of picking up the filth. So I think if you can find a way to make it a less traumatic experience for people, could be rolling in Remington Millions very soon.
few health and safety concerns, such as you might spray it on a face or a hand by accident and accidentally freeze your face off. So
Yes.
there
But on
is
the other
that.
hand, they do sell blowtorches.
Instant freeze. I bet there's something out there on the market. Graham Rigg, hello Graham. I used to use a freezing spray to find overheating components on circuit boards. Well, Graham, that's fascinating. Why don't we use that same spray, repackage it into Remington's Insta Spray? Liquid nitrogen spray rebanding. Thank you, William. Look, within this community, we have such fantastic ideas and brain power. And put together, we can turn it into millions. Remington's millions.
Sure can. Now, speaking of liquid, what do you think about this model here?
Ooh.
Clearly another
So-
caster who is kind of unleashing this scalding soup in the direction of the enemy using magic.
It's an invocation of hot pot, isn't it?
Yes, it's like hot pot without the launcher.
It's like carrot and cabbage splash. I don't think it's got much of a range, to be honest, but I love the idea.
But we'll have to see the rules for it first before we make any assessments on that. I'm looking forward to seeing these rules actually, because it's not often that Mantic release an army separate from the main rules or the yearly updates. And so I'd be interested to see whether it's just a book on its own for Halflings or whether it's part of something bigger or what. Very interesting. I'll keep my eyes peeled.
What else you got for me, Andy?
Well, we've got some community miniatures here from the Discord server, which everyone should be joining, of course. This is from Cedar, and it was pointed out on Discord as well that it looks like this Stormcast is picking up a coin that's been dropped on the ground.
Very thrifty.
But also it's the classic superhero punching the ground after zapping down from the sky pose.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, it's a cool mini. That is that like a? I think that was some kind of special edition, wasn't it? That one.
I'm not sure if this one's still available, but there's so many Stormcast heroes that were one-offs, it's hard to keep track of which ones are actually.
Does anyone really care? I don't know.
And then these are from Fluke Skywalker on Discord, and we can zoom in on these a bit. Got some lovely, I believe these are pure Fargeists,
Yeah.
not one of the variants that you can make by mixing up the kits that they introduced. The Flesh Eater Courts.
Yeah, some cool colours there. Do you think there was spray? I don't think they were sprayed. You can see the paint marks on them.
Yeah, I think this is probably done with glazing, layering, something along those lines, but I don't think there's been airbrushing going on things.
What I like best is the frozen bases that have been sort of cracked with the stampeding Vargeist there. That's a cool effect, man.
Very cool. Interested to see how that's done actually. So maybe we can get more info on that either comments here or on the Discord server, which people should be joining for red hot or ice cool refreshing excitement, like with this picture. So all the content that I've prepared has run its course. Mr. Remington, are you looking forward to our battle report tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be. I think we've got a great way of producing the battle reports now, haven't we? It's literally you just show the pictures and we talk through them. It's all live. It's all done in one take, and I think the viewers have been liking it too. We had almost 300 views of the last battle report just in a couple of days. So I think it's the way forward. It saves you a lot of time, Andy, doesn't it? Having to
It does.
edit pictures and edit movies and bounce movies and upload.
It's the way I've been doing all my Kings of War battle reports for a long time, and tournament reports as well immediately after tournaments. Sometimes on the eve of the tournament I'll get home and immediately just fly into doing the report, just take the pictures on the computer, just blitz through them, and it's all done in a few hours, rather than hours and hours of editing and lining up the clips in the right place. So it's much easier to do it that way. And another thing we could do as well at some point in the future, when we're a bit more familiar with the rules, we could always record bits of the game and then just splice in that footage into the live stream as well between us describing the pictures. So we've got a lot of options to spice it up. We also need an intro song that you're going to have to do for our AOS battle reports.
Do you think it works having two voices, or maybe the audience can answer this, or do you think it's a distraction?
Most people seem to like it so far, actually. I've started doing the same thing with some other game systems as well now, including Kings of War. The report I did for that yesterday, I had my opponent on the call as well, describe the action. So I think that could be the way forward. People like getting the tactical input from both sides. It might be more difficult with a report from a tournament to try and get all my opponents on at the right time. That's probably a bit too much to ask.
Good question for you. What's a good length for a battle report? You know,
I think that's a
some
good
of
one
them
for the
are
audience
like
to
an hour and
answer.
a half long, way too long.
The ones I record on my own tend to be half an hour. Ones we do as a duo tend to be about 1 hour long. And I think it seems about right. It doesn't seem like we're waffling on too much. It's just back and forth, actual tactical thoughts. We're not going off topic too much. So it seems about right so far. But if people prefer shorter, then we can attempt that. That's going to get more people watching it, more eyeballs on it, and more people throwing money at the channel. Then it can be attempted. But what do the people think? They think 1 hour is okay? They think 1 hour is a sufficient amount of time to dedicate to a battle report and keep you engaged?
Back in the day, Andy, I used to follow sort of battle reporters, and they used to use the same armies or a couple of armies, and you got to know their armies and what they had in them, and it actually got quite engaging actually when you're on their side a bit, because you know their forces. So Peter, hello Peter, he says an hour's about right for me. So there you go. I think the other good thing, well, especially the last battle report, Andy, was your photography. You took some terrific photographs at Warhammer World there.
Yes. Take that praise. I think an hour seems about right. It doesn't seem like we're going off topic, and it also doesn't seem like we're rushing too much, which you can do if you try and squeeze a battle report into 20 minutes sometimes. But it does leave room for us to talk. If something comes up tactically that we didn't consider before, got a bit of leeway if we're not trying to squeeze it into a short time frame.
Now, speaking of short time frames, Andy, my wife requested that you speak a certain phrase on the show, and perhaps it could be, a sort of a phrase that becomes synonymous with you. What do you think?
Well, that would be all very well if I could remember what it is. So I think you'll have to secretly send it to me, and then I'll work it in at the end of the show. But what you were saying about people becoming familiar with the armies in battle reports, people will definitely get a chance to do that with our armies, because we're going to be playing not entirely the same armies over and over again, but for a little while it's probably going to be mostly Stormcast versus Daughters of Cain, so that we get really familiar with the rules. I've actually got a lot of different units for the Stormcast, especially loads of different heroes that I can just trade in and out. So it's going to keep things spicy, but also allow us to build familiarity with the rules so we can play faster. And eventually we'll be able to do live battle reports as well, where we're just showing the entire game broadcast live, and people can comment on it and tell us that we're getting the rules wrong. But at the moment, it would not be feasible to do that, because it would be about 7 hours long, with us going back and forth to the rules every 2 seconds. But in the future, that will definitely happen.
Now, I have almost every unit in the Daughters of Cain, catalogue, apart from Morathe. So that's pretty good. But I've got 8 other fully painted Age of Sigmar armies. I'd love to play them at some point, but my head is in such a maze at the minute. I can only handle learning one set of rules at a time, unfortunately.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we haven't even brought into our games yet. We haven't done anything with the terrain rules in this edition yet. We haven't done the objectives we haven't done. We did grand strategies. The battle tactics. We haven't done
we haven't done those.
Yeah, we haven't done those that you get each turn yet, because it's just there's too much going on already, and we're just breaking it down and building up piece by piece slowly.
We need the Remington shout when he rolls the skull dice rolls. Definitely, Dave. Do you know my dice rolling sucked so bad last game as well. I did roll a whole bunch of ones, but you know what? What I love about Daughters of Cain is that as the game goes on, they get to re-roll ones, so it's like the perfect army for me.
That is true.
Yeah, man.
Well, look forward to seeing that tomorrow. For now, I think the most important thing that we need to do is to emphasise the importance of relaxation in the community. And perhaps with that in mind, we should all just sit back, close our eyes, and imagine a world where you have no cares at all. Any care you have, in fact, whether or not you're in the VIP section of
Andy's Deep Bar.
That's right, Andy's Deep Bath. So, sitting back, feel the bubbles against your toes. You're one of the wonderful patrons, of course, supporters of Patreon. And you would find yourself in the extra fancy half of the Deep Bath, where you're being hand-fed delicious beverages and tasty luxury snacks, perhaps some caviar, carefully arranged bits of lobster, and the like, and all the peasants on the other side, while still having a pretty darn relaxing time, certainly not experiencing the same luxury you are. But anyone who may glance to the side of the VIP section, you may catch a glimpse of the following people who have pledged a sufficient amount to be visible and thus be mentioned by name. See the likes of Cedar, Roshi, Tim, John, Simon, Tim, Brad, Nippleless, and Guy. All of those people sitting around the edge, pure relaxation. I'm sure they don't regret their Patreon pledge one, allowing them access to luxury experience. Of course, if you want to join them, in fact, you find yourself open to the power of suggestion, the deep relaxation has overcome your body, opened up your mind to new financial possibilities. Yes, did I really need that $1 a month anyway? Why not thrust that direction? The Andy and Rem show, the Andy team. Why not set that $10 a month free and bring joy to the masses, keeping the lights on, lighthouse that is this channel, guiding people through the dark, murky, foggy gaming waters towards safety and fulfillment. While you're there, you might also want to follow on Twitter, Facebook group, maybe join a Discord server, follow us on Instagram perhaps. You may even want to subscribe to Remington Steele's channel. There is actually some content on there. You might not find it that relaxing, but you'll be out of the deep bath by then. You want to. You don't have too much of a good thing. So with that, I think it's about time that we climbed out of the bath with a splash. Oh. Mr. Remington, you look deeply relaxed over there.
That's my favourite bit of the show, Andy. Yeah, you're just such a good orator. You know, I'm definitely feel relaxed. Do you know what? For the first time ever, my brother, all the way from California, has joined in on the chat, and he sent me a picture. That's not Borat. That's actually my brother. How about that? Just to show you, Andy, how much he's enjoying the show.
Is he actually watching the show now?
He was. I don't know whether he got bored or what. Or
Well, it's possible that we made him relax so much that he's just fallen asleep while listening to the deep bath, which can happen because it's so effective at relaxing the mind, body, and...
So, yeah. Fantastic, man. So we've got basically so much content, we don't know what to do with it. And Games Workshop seem to be producing so many miniatures, we can't keep up with them. We certainly can't paint enough to keep up with them.
Certainly can't keep up with the Stormcast. I mean,
No.
I've only just started sinking my painting teeth into these things, including these guys, these praetors, I think they are. These are the ones that
Wow.
you can surround other characters with them, and you can either absorb the wounds or just negate them entirely. It's like a save after a ward save.
Oh, man.
So if you thought they were hard enough to kill already,
So they're like the Emperor's guards in Star Wars, then. There's long cloaked
certainly
red
have that kind of
Imperial.
vibe. So we
Flipping
can't
it.
keep up with everything, but we're going to do our best, and we're going to be furiously painting as well to try and get all this spicy stuff on the table for you to see. As exciting as a Star Drake is, people are very familiar with it, but they'd really love to see one of these dragons on the table as well.
Wow.
Maybe
One
this
thing
one.
I'll say, though, Andy, when I first started making content for YouTube, it really was a battle just to complete an army. And a couple of years ago, I went on a mission of actually not buying any more models until I'd finished a whole bunch of armies. And I sold off a load of things I didn't want or didn't need, and I ended up painting all these armies. Finito, wonderful. So I'm in a good place at the minute. I've got plenty of models I want to paint and can paint and will paint. And then I've got a whole bunch of these armies I've yet to play properly, but I'm working my way through. And since you've moved closer to home, closer to Nottingham, in fact, you're in Nottingham, just round the corner, in fact, from Games Workshop, Warhammer World. It's we're in a perfectly primed for being the new #1 Age of Sigmar show.
Like we were originally,
Yes,
back in the
why
day,
not?
when Age of Sigmar first hit the shores, we were there to greet it with open arms and embrace it while everyone else was still confused, running around. The old world had blown up. People were still recovering from setting their armies on fire. We were there, red hot content, hot, spicy, delivering it straight to the people, straight to the masses.
We've been doing this for 6 years now, so while the other channels come and go with their flashy content, here today, gone tomorrow. Even though they get endorsements from Games Workshop, we don't. So maybe that's a good thing. We're independent. My brother says we're making him feel sleepy. Uh, so can't do much about that. Back in the day, me and my brother used to paint Warhammer Fantasy models. I still have a couple of his models that he painted. In fact, some old ogre mercenaries. So how about that?
Very touching.
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up this episode on that bombshell.
Yeah, let's do that.
So, everybody, don't forget, since I'm slaving over these episode thumbnails, I'm going to make you look at this one for a bit longer. Because you have to admit, that is quite a nice one. I like that font, actually. Dragon Riders, pretty cool font. I don't think Remington's actually sent me the catchphrase I'm supposed to be debuting at the end of the show yet.
I sent it. I sent it on Discord actually.
Oh, have you? Let's have a look. So if I'm gonna... Oh, there we go. So, don't forget, like the video if you haven't already. That's very important. Don't forget to comment after the show as well. Don't forget to subscribe if for some reason you haven't. And you probably also have an option to turn on notifications for this channel as well, because I know some people aren't aware of when shows are beginning. We have changed the start time a little bit. Both got very busy lives at the moment, so sometimes the start time will vary. If you keep your eyes peeled, then you should know when we're going live. And obviously all the social media stuff is in the description down there, all the various ways you can throw money at me. It's good because it helps me to buy models like this dragon you can see in the thumbnail here, and keep the games spicy. The battle reports are going to be flowing consistently now, not just AOS, but lots of different game systems, and hopefully you'll enjoy that ride. So, a couple of things remain to be said. First of all, Mr. I'd like to say farewell to the audience tonight.
Good night out there, whatever you are.
Stealing my line. Well, in fact,
You've got a new line, Andy.
very well, we're going to try out this for 1 week only. We're going to try out this new catchphrase that Remington and Mrs. Remington have been pushing as the new closing line. So, first of all, always keep it spicy. But secondly, how about this? What you seek is seeking you.
It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show on your screens tonight. It's the Andy and Remington Steel Show for your home delight. We're talking about Age of Sigmar and anything else that is cool. Talking about Warhammer Fantasy